Hey everybody, John Peterson here from John Peterson Photography, and today I want to walk you through a few images that I took in the Palouse area of Eastern Washington. I just got back from leading a workshop up there, and we had a great group and we had just a fantastic time. And we all came home with some images. Most of my images were shot when I was out scouting, not during the workshop. But still, I have enough representative examples to show you what it's like photographing up in the Palouse. This area is one of the hardest areas to photograph, in my opinion. And the reason being is that there is no clearly defined subject. It's very subtle, very nuanced types of compositions. And so let me walk you through some of these things and show you what I mean by that and how you can construct and create compositions that are appealing and compelling to those who might see your shots. So let's dive in and take a look. All right, here we go. Here's the first image that I wanted to show you, and this is probably one of the easier ones to understand because there is a definable subject, and it's the barn or the outbuilding right in the wheat field. This is a location that we visit at sunrise, and the reason being is that when the sun comes up over the hills, you get this beautiful warm light on the hillside and on the barn. So that's kind of why I take folks here. But what makes this kind of composition work is the symmetry. Where this barn is placed, first off, is really important in the image. I chose to place it in the lower left. This is a really friendly quadrant. And then I've got this partial tree right up here, and then these three trees right over here as a way to balance out left to right elements in the image. And the cool thing about this is this makes a wonderful triangle, just like that. And we love triangles, we love V's, but triangles like this really bring some balance to the shot. Other cool things that are really important, in the Palouse, and I'll show you some examples of this. It's the subtle graduations between light and dark. So I've got a dark area here, a dark area here, and a dark area here. I was very cognizant of all of those. And I've got, of course, a nice bright area here, and then another bright area right down here. So where those elements are placed in the frame also sort of dictated the lens I chose and the focal length that I chose. Moving on, here's another sunrise shot from a different location. This one's a little bit more complex, but is a great example of photographing in the Palouse. A lot of what we go up there for is to photograph the light and the shadows and the rolling hills. And at this particular location at sunrise, the whole goal is to get light just kissing the top of the hill. So if you see here, 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 and here, right, I've got this great sunlight just kissing the top of the hill. So that is fantastic. But what really makes this location work and this shot work is see how this sort of swell or this hummock lines up with this, lines up with this. I've got those three elements right in a row. I've got this light, and this light, of course. I've got three stacked up front to back. I've got this line and this line, which is sort of mimicked by this line and this line, so that brings some balance. I've got this dark area here and these trees over here that is somewhat balanced out by this dark area over here. So all of these things we're crafting a visual work of art here, and it's sort of abstract, but not. But the important thing is to pay attention to where the shadows and the light happens to be and position them in your frame in such a way that it's pleasing, it's symmetry, it's balanced. And then the icing on the cake is these tire tracks that are running through the foreground, and I was really cognizant of where I put them. I wanted as much arc as I could get coming through the frame, but I also was very cognizant of this spacing and this spacing. I did not want it too close to the edge of the frame to add more tension. I didn't want that, nor of course did I want to cut them off. So this is just icing on the cake, visual interest, but really the majority of the story is the light and the shadows that are out here. Moving on, here's another kind of example, light and shadows. I've got light, a little bit of light, and then I've got all light up here. All right, so those are the things that I'm looking for. I've got this really deep shadow here, and then this darker element up here. And I chose to include some of the trees up above, so it wasn't an absolute abstract. The trees up above give a little bit of context to the image. The other thing I like, look at the angle of this slope. That's very pleasing. And the direction of angles has a psychological effect on us. When we go from lower left to upper right, it's generally a happier feeling in people. If we go from upper left to lower right, it's a little bit of a sadder feeling. So this is a happy feeling angle. But you just look at the motion and the movement that's coming through this image, and that's what we try to capture in the Palouse. Moving right along, now this is completely abstract for a lot of people. Of course, these are the wheat fields, and this was shot from Steptoe Butte. But this is part of the reason why you bring super long lenses up onto Steptoe Butte, so you can capture and isolate certain details of the landscape to create this kind of art. And a shot like this is all about the light and the dark. And if we look at my light, right, I've got these wonderful three lines that are repeating right here in the foreground. And they're mimicked by these lines back here. And this is the one fallacy, or the one problem with this image. I cut off that upper line. So I've got these three lines all going a particular direction, and then I've got this line bisecting them, right? Going a different direction. So that adds visual interest. It adds a little bit of tension, but it's just a cool shape, and it's one that I love. And of course the shadows and the light, the contrast between those is beautiful and magical, and that's kind of why we go to Steptoe. Here's another one that's very, very simple. This is one of my favorite little landscape features in the Palouse area, believe it or not. And this is a sunrise kind of shot because we look for these pastel colors. And the whole point of this image is this shape. I love this shape. It's just a beautiful, smooth, flowing kind of shape. And so I capture that. Sometimes I'll put it right in the middle. Other times I'll put the bottom a little bit off center. I'll change my positioning. And this shot only kind of works because I have a really cool, interesting sky up above, but it works nonetheless. And then as a little bit of visual interest, I've got this little highlighted ridge running up towards the saddle. Simplicity sometimes can be very, very strong. Again, simplicity. This is my Windows background. Very, very simple. And it's about, you look at the light here, the light up here, light. I've got all these light areas. I've got dark down here, dark here, dark here. And I really work to sort of balance those. I wanted enough foreground to create a calm entry into this scene. But this is really about this angle, this curve, and this curve, and this curve. That's why this kind of shot works for me. Of course, I had to throw this in because in the Palouse, there's a lot of farm equipment and farm settings, grain trains, Americana, that kind of stuff. And the Palouse is also great for incredible storytelling, which is what this is about. I got very low right above the train tracks, included the engine and the grain silo, and it tells a story. So think about storytelling if you go into this area, and how do you want to depict it? And part of it's the angle, part of it's the subject I have in it, and part of it's the processing, doing a black and white for this shot. It gives a little bit of a nostalgic feel to it. All right, going on to another one, a little bit more identifiable of a subject. This is a grain silo, a storage silo out in the middle of the wheat fields. And this is one that I photograph quite frequently from different positions along the road. The things that the reason why I'm attracted to this silo and photograph it really well is the angle that I can get on it. This space between the top of the silo and this ridge is important. If this top of this pipe intersected this ridge line, if this did this, it would not feel nearly as well or as good as it feels right now. So this little angle works fantastic. Notice that I cut off the bottom of this silo. You don't need to have the whole subject in the frame. It's okay to cut it off. The viewer's going to probably know what this is or have a relatively good guess. But the thing I like about this too is this angle of pipe that's coming up and this angle of pipe. Look at that. It's balance. It's symmetry with those two elements. And as a bonus this year, I've got these tire tracks that are curving up here and away, which adds a little bit more visual interest. Another very, very simplistic shot, right? The whole reason I took this, besides the color, is the angle of these slopes. Love those slopes. And then I have this visual interest of these tire tracks running up the wheat field. So I have this repetitive pattern going throughout it. But really it's the color of the wheat, the color of the sky. This was at sunset. But the angle of these slopes to create a calm, smooth, flowing photograph. All right, there you go. There's just a few images from the Palouse that I wanted to show today. I could have easily done another 12 to 15 examples of what I look for when I'm photographing the Palouse. You know, as I said, this can be a challenging place to photograph in, and I hope you got a little bit of a sense of that for those images that were maybe just the dip or the hollow, and then just the subtle light on the top of the ridges. Some of those are not overt subjects. They're very subtle, very nuanced, but they can be extremely beautiful. So that is why I absolutely love photographing in the Palouse. As I said, it's hard, but artistically, it is so rewarding for me when I get good images, knowing that it was my vision and my craft that created these images out of this massive landscape with no clear subject. So that's why I love going back year after year after year in both the spring and in August, or in the fall, in autumn, for the harvest time, because the green landscape turns to gold and brown, and it gets even more challenging because we have plow lines that are then running through the fields that need to be integrated into the composition in such a way that it makes sense and it's cohesive with the rest of the image. So I hope you enjoyed this little video, and again, please leave me any comments, suggestions, questions down below. And yes, I will say that there are dust spots in the images that I showed you because I was editing these on the road real quickly and didn't go through my cleanup routine to get rid of the dust spots. And out in the Palouse, if you even look the wrong way, you're going to get dust on the end of your lens and possibly on your sensor. So I always travel with sensor cleaning kits and tried to do that each night, but still some dust spots got through, so I apologize for that. But thanks for watching. Have a great day and stay tuned for more stuff. All right, folks. Bye-bye.